Good morning, everyone. It's Lynn Dunn from Stamptastic Designs. So, thanks so much for joining me today. So, today we are going to focus on a couple of pretty simple card ideas featuring the Fond of Autumn stamp set. So, this is the stamp set that I'll be using today. And it has this very large image in it that can be used just as it is, or you can cut it up into individual pieces to use on your cards, which is what I did here. So this particular stamp set, it comes in a bundle and it has the autumn bouquet dies. So these are the dies that I'll be using today. And this one in particular, so let me get this one off here. This one actually cuts out this image here. So it cuts out all these little individual pieces. And there's also a die in the set that cuts out the entire image if you want to use the entire image on your card as one big image. But I like to cut things apart. You guys know me. I like to cut things apart and use them individually. So I really like the fact that there's two different dies in this particular stamp set that you can use with this image. So we're going to play around with this stamp set today. And I just want to mention it. I was kind of inspired to put together these cards based on this particular card that I shared with you this week. So this is actually a little Z fold easel card. So that's what it looks like on the side. You can see there's a little Z fold section here. So it's like creating a Z fold card, except for that I turned it into an easel card so that it stands up, on its own using this little greeting here on the front. So if you want to learn how to make this Z fold card, I did link to the video in the description with this video. So you can go watch that after you watch this live. So good morning, everybody. Good morning. Oh, you didn't get a notice. Well, I don't know. Something weird is happening with Facebook. In case you guys didn't notice, something weird happens with Facebook all the time. All right, so let's get into it here and let's get these cards made. So let's start with the first one. I'm going to just set these somewhere. I got to find some room here. Hang on. So we're going to start with these two cards. So basically what I did is I stamped the image. Oh, what did I do with my paper? Boy, you guys. Here we go. So I'll show you how I created this big design here. So basically what I did is I stamped the image on a scrap piece of white cardstock. Oh, I'm just a little, I guess I'm just not prepared. Oh, that's what happens. That's what happens when you have two events going on at the same time. Okay, so here is the image. I'll show you guys real quick. So I just used some early espresso ink. Now, I like to color with stamping blends. You guys can color with whatever your favorite coloring tools are. And if you decide to use stamping blends, they do work with, our regular ink pads. It's recommended that you use Memento ink, but you can do the coloring right with this particular ink. You don't necessarily need the Memento ink. So here's what I did. I'll just color a couple of the things just to give you an idea. And especially because I'm going to show you a little trick for coloring the leaves. So how I colored the leaves is I just took my dark Daffodil Delight Stampin' Blend and I just, I kind of two-toned them with Cajun Craze and with this Daffodil Delight. So I kind of went right down the center with my Daffodil Delight. Just to give it a little bit of color there. And then I took my Cajun Craze And my Cajun craze keeps falling apart, so hang on. There we go. I keep pulling my marker apart every time I take it apart. All right, so then I just added some Cajun craze right around this and just kind of highlighted the yellow. So when you're using the Stampin' Blends, you can use them just to color, and then you can use them just to add some highlights like this. So by adding that light color first and then going around and adding my darker color, my Cajun craze, it just creates kind of a fun little look with the leaf. And so that's how I colored all these little leaves here. So I'm just going to finish this up. So there's 3 big leaves that I did this to. So like I said, you can use the Stampin' Blends to color this image. You can use watercolor pencils, whatever kind of coloring tools you like to use to color that in. And then for the rest of it, I just kind of went around and colored in the other images. So like this is Mossy Meadow. So I colored all the other leaves in with Mossy Meadow. And then the little flowers, I'll show you. I'm not going to color this whole image, but I'll just kind of give you guys an idea of what colors I used. So that was Mossy Meadow. And then for the flowers, I colored them in with the Daffodil Delight. So I started out with the yellow, the light yellow. So the markers come in 2 shades. So I started with this light yellow and just added color around here. And then I took the dark shade and then I highlighted part of the image that is already there. So these little lines on this image, I just kind of went around and highlighted just to add more, just more depth and dimension. So that's how I did that. And then I took my dark crumb cake and colored in the center of the flower. So you kind of get the idea. I went with obviously the more autumn look with all these colors since, since we're dealing with the Fond of Autumn stamp set. So it's all the really pretty colors of autumn. And then I used my light crumb cake just to kind of color in these little berries. So that's pretty much what I used. Oh, I forgot that. And then you can use soft suede or bronze. I think I'll just add the bronze to color in my little acorns. So it doesn't take much to color this in. You just have to choose the colors that you want to use to color in the entire thing. So that's what I did with that. And then I want to show you how this die works. So this die fits right over this image and it cuts out each section. So it cuts out 4 different sections that you can use on your card, or you can use the entire image as it is and just lay that out on your card. So either way, whatever you'd like to do. So for mine, I decided to cut mine apart and use them individually. So that's what I'm going to show you here. So these are all the pieces that I cut apart with that die. And then there's an individual flower in there that I stamped and cut separately. So that's this little floral right here that I stamped and cut out with one of the dies. So we're going to create this one. And this design is very similar to the design that I created the Z-fold with. So all I did was layer together several different pieces of cardstock. So my first piece here is crumb cake cardstock, and this is 4 by 5 1/4 inches. And then my next layer is early espresso cardstock. So that is 3 3/4 by 5. And then this last piece is 3.5 by 4 3/4. And this piece I embossed with an embossing folder called the Leaf Fall 3D embossing folder. So it's a fun little embossing folder that kind of goes up the side of the card. The way the folder is designed, if you emboss the whole entire piece, um, it leaves just like a little opening here for you to add something. So I'm going to add my words. I'm going to add my greeting there, and hopefully I have enough room. But there's a really cool greeting. I love the font, I guess we'll call it, the font that's used for this particular greeting. Just really pretty. So we'll just stamp that on the bottom, and then we'll just adhere all these layers together. So I will do this quickly. So it really is a beautiful set. It actually was not the first set on my wish list, but I'm really glad that I did get this set because there's so many different things that you can do with this set. So that's really all the card is just all of these different layers. All the fall colors. And then my card base is just mossy meadow. Okay, so that's what the card base looks like. And then I just took these little pieces and I just layered them together on the card front. So that's how the pieces will go. But I'm going to show you a little tip for adding this little gold trim. So I have some gold trim that basically what I did is I just wrapped it around my fingers twice, and I just snipped it off here. And then I bunched it together to make two little sections of a bow. And I took a piece of washi tape, and you can use washi tape or just regular tape. And I just kind of wrapped my washi tape around the center here. Let's put one more. So you just kind of wrap some tape around the center, and then we'll cut it in half. And then we'll use those little pieces on the card like I have here. So the first one will just kind of tuck up under here. So I'm going to add, oops, I'm going to add a little bit of washi tape right in between my dimensionals. If I can get it in there. We'll just tape that on. And so that's our first part. So we'll add that. And then for these other pieces, I just tuck these right around. So like I said, I cut this out with the die, and then I just kind of tucked these pieces around my larger image. So we'll do that. And then I'm going to grab a glue dot. We'll adhere this last little bit of twine right under here. So we'll add that, and then we'll add our floral. Oops, hang on. I gotta grab a dimensional. Gotta get a dimensional. So put the dimensional there. And then we'll just add this floral right on top. And then that will kind of cover up, the rest of that washi tape that I added to the card. So that's how you can add that little gold trim. It makes it a lot easier to just cut little pieces than it does to try to make a big long uh, wrapping of that trim, that'll fit this entire image. So it's easier just to tuck little pieces into, into the design. All right, so now I will just add a couple gold embellishments, and that's the first card. So this is basically how I did the Z fold card in last week's video. So you'll see that the design looks the same as my Z fold card, other than the greeting. I didn't put the greeting on this one, but it's the exact same design. Excuse me. So you can use this design just to create a regular card, or you can use it to create a Z fold card. All right, so let's set this aside here. For some reason, I'm running out of room. And then on the inside, I decorated the inside similar to how I did the outside with the same type of layers. I just didn't emboss the inside. I just added a little stamped image on the inside. So it's a really fun and pretty card. Okay, so that's the first one. And then here's the next one that I have for you. Lots of little pieces. So this one, I decided to use some crumb cake cardstock for the base of my card. So that's what I have here, my crumb cake cardstock. And then I have a couple little pieces. So of course I was using up scraps. So I have my little 1/4 inch by 5.5 inch piece of early espresso cardstock for scrap. And then this piece is designer paper from the Rustic Harvest designer series paper pack. So that piece is 1.5 inches wide, and it's the full length of the card. So it's 5.5. Now I cut my little piece here a little larger than the card, so I'm just going to trim it off once I get it on here. So I added that piece first, and then I can put my designer paper right up against that. And then my focal point is really going to be all the pieces from that very large image from the Fond of Autumn stamp set. So to create my focal point, I started with a 2 3/4 by 3 3/4 inch piece of Very Vanilla. So I forgot to tell you guys, I'm using Very Vanilla cardstock for these cards, but you can use white cardstock too. That works. So this is 2 3/4 by 3 3/4, and it just gets matted out on a piece of early espresso cardstock, which is 3 by 4. And of course, I embossed this piece just to add a little bit of texture. And then we'll just put this right in the center. So that's going to go there. And then we can just add our little pieces. So this time I'm only using 2 pieces from that large image. So remember, that large image can be cut into 4 pieces, but I'm only using 2. And so we'll add this over this direction. And then we'll pop up our little leaves here up on the top, tuck those in. And then I just stamped that greeting, that autumn wishes. We'll just stamp that on a scrap piece of paper. And then I just cut this out by hand with my scissors, because I want to use each individual piece on this card. Each individual word, I should say. So So you have two little words, and we'll pop those up. Get a couple of dimensionals on here. So I thought the little greeting filled in this spot nicely, without adding that floral like I did on the last card. So I thought instead of adding the floral again, we'll just add this little greeting. So let's move this one right about there. And then we'll off center this one a little bit. And that's it. That's how simple that one is. The probably the only thing that takes, a little bit of time is coloring in the image, but once you have the image colored in, um, I colored in two of those images to make these four cards. So I used all the pieces from two of the large images to make four cards. So, all right, and now I'll just add a couple of these little rustic metallic, whoops, dots. Oh, it fell right off. So you can really use anything to embellish it. And then you can tie a little bit of twine on it. Like I added a little bit of this baker's twine on the side here. And then on the inside, I just stamped a couple more leaves and just added a little acorn on the inside. So just a fun way to decorate the inside. And all right, so there is, oh, here we go. That's the second card. All right, so now let's look at this third card. So now that I've used up the leaves from, this big cluster of leaves, I've used those up. Now I'm going to use up the little florals that were with the image. So if we look at the image, I used this big cluster of leaves for the first two cards that I shared with you. Now I'm going to use the cluster, this little floral here, and I stamped a couple additional leaves just to kind of decorate my card. So this is the next card that I have for you. And so these are all the pieces. So let's show you that. So this is the piece from that large image. And then these are some of the other pieces that I stamped and cut using images from this particular set. So the first thing I did is I just embossed the front of this cardstock. So this is Mossy Meadow cardstock. And I just embossed it with that Leaf Fall 3D embossing folder. And then I just created just a little thing for my greeting here. So I just cut out this rectangular shape with the stitched rectangle dies. So this one measures approximately 1 3/4 by 3 1/8 inch. And so then I just went up 1/4 inch to create, the little layered look here. So that's what I have for this card. So I'm going to add my thank you right away, and then we're going to decorate around it. So there's a nice little greeting, a little thank you in this particular stamp set. So that's what I'll be using for these last two cards. So I'm just going to adhere these together. So we'll just adhere all the layers together, and then we'll put it right on the card. That's basically it with this card. Just these couple layers. So that's early espresso cardstock. And now I'm going to adhere it to the crumb cake. So I'll get all the measurements out on the blog for you guys later today. So let's add this. And this is just going to go kind of towards the bottom. I went towards the bottom just because that's kind of where the the space is where the embossing folder doesn't emboss because it embosses sideways. So that's why I adhered this towards the bottom. And now we'll just do our little trick with our um, gold trim here. So let me grab that. So we'll just scoot this together and we'll wrap it up and then we'll cut it. All right, so we'll add this one. We're going to add this one right up here. And I think I'm going to cut this off. I don't like that sticking out. So we'll add this in here. All right, so we'll add that. All right, so this is going to go up towards the top here. I'm just going to spread this out a little bit. So that will go right about there. And then this little piece, I'm just going to tuck underneath here. And I'm going to add a little glue dot. I can get it off my finger. There we go. So that will just kind of tuck that in there. There we go. And then I just put a couple leaves in there. So these are the leaves that I stamped individually. So this was not part of that big, large image. So I just stamped them individually and colored them in. So these are colored with Cajun Craze, the light Cajun Craze. And then this one is colored with the Mossy Meadow. So we'll tuck that in there. I just kind of felt like it needed just a little bit more color since there was a lot of green and yellow in here. So we'll add that, and then we'll add our little floral over here. So that is that basic design. And then, of course, you can add your embellishments. So I'm using those festive pearls because they have gold and silver. And since I'm using, the gold twine, I decided to use that. So that's really it. And then for the inside, I just, stamped one of the florals so that it matches the images that I used on the outside. So it's a very simple one, but a great way to use up that floral from this particular stamped image. All right, and then the last one that I have is using up the other floral because remember I had two. So this one, I just used up this floral and then I cut another little floral and just a little leaf. So those are the embellishments that I'll use for this card. So I'm going to start with stamping this greeting. So again, I'm using the same size rectangular shape that I just used on the other card. Stamping the greeting with a little bit of early espresso ink. And then I'm going to use some crumb cake ink. So we'll set this aside for the moment. And I need some scrap paper. So we'll use this crumb cake ink and we're going to stamp the card base. So here's the card base. So we'll just add some of these little flowers in the background. So you really only need to go around the edge because basically your focal point is going to kind of cover up the rest of it. So I just kind of went around and turned the image as I went around. Let's see, we'll go that way. And we'll add one more, I guess, for good measure. All right, so that's basically what you need to do is just kind of go around and add the little florals. And I could probably add, I think that looks good. Okay, so now we'll just add our pieces. So I have a couple different pieces here. Let me grab them. So I have I have a piece of vellum. So this piece of vellum is 3.5 by 5. So that I'm putting right in the center here, just to kind of mute out the background a little bit. Otherwise, sometimes it gets too busy. So that just kind of helps mute it out. And then I have a piece of designer paper that is 3 3/4 by 4 1/4. So this is just going to go right across the center. And then I have a piece of early espresso cardstock, which is 2 3/4. So that's my centerpiece here. So 2 3/4 by 4. And then I have my little rectangular piece. So those are the basic layers for this card. And then I have my florals. Whoops. So we'll add our floral. So this time I don't have any of the gold. I just use the gold on the other cards. But we'll add this one up towards the top. And then I just tucked another little leaf. I felt like this needed something over here. So I just tucked a little leaf in there. And then I just added another floral down on the bottom. So that's how I created that particular card. So it's very simple. It looks complicated, but it's very simple. And then I just added a little bit of twine. And then, of course, I added the little embellishments up here on the top. And then on the inside, I decorated the inside with a little bit of designer paper. And then, of course, the same floral that I used on the front of the card. So that is card number 4. So let me bring these back so that you can see them all together. So these are the 2 cards that I did with that large floral. And then these are the 2 cards that I did with the large leaf image. So there's lots of different ways that you guys can um, use these cards or this stamp set. This image right here has so many different uses, just that one image. So as you can see, I took that one image and I stamped it twice, colored it in twice, and created 4 cards. So you're able to break apart that image and create a variety of different cards. And then, of course, I have my little Z fold. This is like my favorite card, you guys. You have to go, you have to go check out this Z fold. The Z fold card is super fun, and it's not very difficult to create. You'll be surprised at how easy it is to create that. So definitely check out that video. I linked to it in the description with this video. And then I will get all the cards out on my blog today with all the measurements. So if you guys want to recreate these cards using the Fond of Autumn stamp set, or if you just want to use the layouts with whatever supplies you have on hand, you can certainly do that too. So it's completely up to you. So I hope you guys enjoyed these card ideas and a look at this particular stamp set. So if you haven't seen this one, I definitely would recommend it. It's not one that kind of jumps out at you in the Stampin' Up! Catalog, but it really is a gorgeous stamp set and it's a lot of fun to play with. So, all right, you guys have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will see you guys again next week. So take care, everybody.